You think?
I'm thinking. Hi there. It's the news, streamingnetwork.com, WGSN-DB, going solar network, radio, TV, and podcast number one. And we're the number one internet singles talk network, and we're the number one show. This is
Indeed.
Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine.
So today we're going to talk about, it's been a few months, but there was this very controversial video that went out initially on, I think it's been on TikTok mostly. And it was just this benign comment. And then people kept picking it up and they were interviewing people on the street about it and getting all kinds of comments on their TikTok thing. So Barry and I are going to tackle it because it certainly has to do with us male and females and our feelings and attitude. So
I say just on part of that too, there are a lot of memes that came out on Facebook and Instagram, and I did tend to get involved in some conversations that I could see that sometimes my feedback didn't make a difference because of the fact they saw me as this man versus seeing me as this person who knew stuff who might be able to support them. And as my focus and my work's always been about being a champion of the divine feminine and really honoring women, there's the assumption that ignores all of that. So I love this conversation we can have because I'm not so much I want to say my 2 cents, but it's more about let's cover the whole spectrum and let's cover everything so we really have an understanding.
Because what you and I talk about a lot is how can you stay conscious in your life in general and certainly in dating.
Yeah.
And part of being conscious is saying, I heard this thing. Do I believe it at first blush? Should I do some research? Should I see how my research lands inside of me? Yeah. My mom, I think I've said this before, my mom used to say, people just walk around so unconscious all the time. And it's true, we just go on automatic pilot and we believe things that pop up in the news or Facebook without going, oh, I see the facts. Yeah, I agree. Or, wow, I see some of the facts seemed accurate, but some of them don't check out when I look, or gosh, I don't believe this at all. I mean, I can certainly see why other people do, but I don't. Right. Certainly the political arena right now.
I was going to say that was sounding very resonant of that area.
For sure. But let's just talk about first. So the initial question was, what is the man and bear in the woods question? So the quote was, the man and the bear are in the woods. It's a hypothetical question offering a choice between being stuck in the woods, a woman specifically. It was very directed at women. A woman being stuck in the woods with a random man or a bear. The question is meant primarily for women and is usually phrased the following way. Would you rather be stuck in the woods with a man or a bear? And apparently initially there was a little, let me think about that. And then generally hundreds of women said the bear. Mm-hmm. And apparently a couple women said the man. And there were lots and lots of arguments about it. Because as a woman, I was commenting sometimes and I got not just, oh my gosh, I see you have a different opinion. They would very happily explain to me I was completely wrong if I showed why it could be both sides.
Yeah.
So we're going to unpack this for you today. So whether you've seen it or not, I'm sure in our newsletters, we can put in the link to it so you can see a little bit of the interviews, a little bit of the controversy, because I always want to do my research. That's why I printed off the thing. And I certainly did have a lot of research while it was going on. So the reasoning that I found, most women said they'd rather the bear, because we need to start with what does it seem like for women? That they felt that a man could have lots of reasons and means of hurting them. And generally the bear only had one. And that the bear wouldn't necessarily maliciously hurt them. They felt that the bear would be protecting its young, or you'd encroached on its feeding, and that a man just automatically, if he's a stranger, would do a bunch of somethings. And their comment also was, it could be worse than getting mauled. That was their comment.
Yeah.
It was kind of wild. So yes, I'm going to start out with, because this is where it lands, physical safety, emotional and mental, spiritual too. Physical safety is one of the highest priorities for women, which it needs to be, because half the population, good or bad guys, they're all bigger and stronger than us. I mean, the first time I met Barry, I had to look up in the air because he's really tall. And I'm kind of an average height of a woman, but he's really tall. I mean, he could pick me up without a thought. So we know this as women. We know that you're bigger and stronger. And yes, we can take classes, and good guys generally are not going to just automatically hurt us. And there are bad guys who would automatically hurt us. They won't even care who we are, our families, or any of that sensitivity stuff. So going out in the woods by yourself would already start out a trepidation. I would be. I mean, if I wasn't familiar with the area and the trail, who I might run into. I mean, the woman that wrote Went in the Woods and for all those days, whose name I should have looked up.
Yeah.
But yeah, they made a movie about it. She wrote a big book about it. She even encountered things that she thought she was prepared for and wasn't, being out there by herself, not a person, but certainly scary things. So if you're going to go do this thing by yourself in the woods, already you're going to have a heightened concern, no matter who or what shows up. It's maybe a bunny rabbit or maybe a deer. But generally she encountered snakes and spiders and things that could actually kill her just for a bite, not maul her. So I understand you're already nervous with this whole question about you're out in the woods all by yourself, and now there's a bear or a man. And I think what it really showed you and I was the corporate culture, for a bunch of reasons, and I'm going to get in trouble for later when I tell you when I have reasons about, we women are unnecessarily afraid of all men, lots of men, most men. We accept and believe that given the chance, they will do something that will harm us, break our heart, rape us, make us mentally confused because they yell at us, or I keep thinking candlelight. Boy, where's my head today? What's the gaslight?
Gaslight, yes.
So, yeah, we have lots of reasons to be concerned. And I think they're a lot, some blown out of proportion. So speaking from the man's point of view, Mr. Barry, set it up from, because I can say all those things about us women. It's not really helpful if you do, which is one of the benefits about having both of us here.
Indeed. First of all, I want to add one more flavor of what I've read about when people post it on social media. Is one of the reasons why women would feel, quote, safer, and I'm putting air quotes, around a bear versus a man, is because a bear is predictable, whereas a man wouldn't be. Because the thing is, she can trust the implicit nature of a bear to do what it does, but she can't trust a man for his implicit nature. And the challenge is that, and this is true for people in life in general, is we've got this bad habit as people to paint everybody else with the same brush because one person did something to us, or a certain percentage of the people did something to us, or and on the same token, I remember the statistic years ago. I think it's still true. The numbers, it's something like 1 in 4 women have been sexually molested or raped, meaning that a quarter of the women on the planet have had that assault on themselves. So I feel for that right away, because part of me is like want to protect, and that's one of the things I always feel like I want to do. And so, because there's this section of the male population who doesn't respect women, who in fact uses, abuses, takes what they want from women, and makes women uncomfortable, unsafe, and emotionally distressed, there's a lot of us men who aren't in that bucket, but we get painted the same brush. And that's not to say it's right or wrong, but I'm just saying that's what it feels like on the side of us who don't do things like that. But the conversation about the man in the woods versus the bear in the woods is that if it's just one man, the woman can't tell if that man is one of the good guys or one of the bad guys. And that's the challenge. And I totally understand that. And it's also, like you said before, if a woman goes to the woods on her own, well, there's definitely trepidation. But if she's going to go in the woods with a man, ideally she's done some vetting of him. she lets it know, but she doesn't go camping with the guy she meets for the first time. No, that to me is not smart either. Same as, you know, meeting a bear in the woods. It's like doing some what's the one I'm looking for? Pre event visualization workings. That's the terms I want to have, but basically that premise. Because what I'm clear about, and this is true in the dating field period, not just about the woods, just to be clear, we're not talking only about the woods, is that a woman who is approached by a man, whether it's through dating apps, dating sites, social media, in person, grocery store, whatever it is, has to do her due diligence. That's the word, due diligence, early on, to know if she feels safe with him. Because it doesn't matter about being in the woods or being in the city. A man can still be a bad guy to be around, or a good guy. You don't know that right off the bat. And yes, there are men out there who have a billboards and marketing that show them to be really good guys, but behind the scenes they're not. So it's not going to be just the marketing alone. You've got to do your own due diligence. And that's pretty much in general. So, you know,
really good way to put profiles, marketing.
It is.
Yeah. So in the context of Alone in the Woods, a bear and a man, yeah, I really completely understand why a lot of women picked the bear.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is more known or accepted about them and how they can act around human beings, and ways that they, even unprovoked and certainly provoked, could kill you. I mean, there's just no other option. They're only going to run away, or you can move away, or they're probably going to kill you. There's no in between with a bear, is all the reading I did, because I looked at all the arguments on both sides. Our concern, Barry and mine, with this topic is, I really believe wholeheartedly that the comments that women made about the potential of what a guy could do was so hugely negative.
Yeah.
And it was, any man that shows up in the woods, I need to be on guard about them doing harm to me. I can't give anybody the benefit of the doubt in the woods. And I think that translates, and I can't give anybody the benefit of the doubt online or in person or at meetups or at the grocery store. So one of the things that we hope to, I would say, could you just, if you have your mind made up, then this isn't the one podcast for you. If you are willing to just crack open the door to hear another point of view, you could say, I'd be happy to have you write to us and say, you are so wrong and this is why for her, that person. Okay, got that. If you listen to the whole thing and you're still very solid, tell me why. Why is it different than we say? And at least be open to, there's other ways to look at it, to see inside, how do you feel about men in general, ladies?
Right.
Because there's a lot of negativity about men in general from ladies. So the cute story I'm going to tell, because we are both such fans of Alison Armstrong.
Yes, indeed.
That how she got started in her journey of doing her wonderful videos and seminars and classes to help men and women get along better, was she had decided that all men were shits after she got divorced from a hard marriage. And she figured in 6 months she could figure out why men were so shitty. And during that time, she attended a seminar with a girlfriend, with a guy that was the lecture person about male and female relationships. And he talked at one point about how there's the saying about, you kiss enough frogs and you'll find your prince. And he said, well, there's another saying that's just as accurate, that there's lots of women who kiss princes and turn them into frogs. And Allison's friend went, oh my God, what a terrible thing to say. That would never happen. And Allison said, oh my God, that's me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when she told that story, it resonated with me, because I know I've done that in the past with my attitude and my snideness and my, I know what's right and you can't prove me, and thinking any other way because I've had this happen and all the men are like this. So our opportunity here is to say why that's not true, that all men are not anything except hopefully men with Y chromosomes. But we'll put that conversation aside. We're going to just deal with men that have Y chromosomes and are men. I'm fine with all the other things, but for this conversation, I think we need to have some boundaries. So this is our boundaries. We're going to talk about men that are masculine, that generally want to be in a committed relationship with a woman, because we're talking about women. So we're limiting our audience. I got that, but I'm okay with that. So that you could have a little space to think, how could I think differently about men, no matter what I've read or heard or experienced, to think there might be some good guys? Because how many times I see in Facebook, there's no good guys. There's no good guy. There's no men anywhere, and all the men are bad. And that's a horrible way to live, as far as I'm concerned, as a woman. And it's a horrible way for men to be treated.
Mm-hmm. And of course, and just to be clear, it works the other way too. There are a lot of men out there saying there's no good women out there, just filling both sides of the conversation. But I want to speak to a couple of things. One of which, I remember Alison used to talk about calling it frog farming. It was her term. I love that term because it was about, that was things you would cultivate frogs. And unfortunately, as you said so perfectly and eloquently, a lot of women unfortunately see men through the same lens, where every man they see, it basically is a frog to her. Because of one or maybe two bad experiences that unfortunately she chose men that were equivalents of frogs who didn't treat them the right way. And the challenge is, and this is the key thing I want to talk about, because this is a mindset piece. It sounds so simple, but it's so clear, is we have one or two bad experiences and then we think everything is the same. And so this is an NLP term, which is basically like a global deletions, exclusions, and assumptions that we make about life. And so when we have one bad experience, maybe you could say, for example, you go to the grocery store and they were out of something you wanted. And you can start saying, this store never has anything I want. That's a leap of faith from one thing to everything. But we do that with relationships and dating as well, because we look at one bad experience on the dating apps, or we go to a dating app, a dating site, and maybe that day we don't find any matches. And we assume we'll never find any match because of that one experience. And so this piece is so important to get this understanding first, because we have this bad habit of painting everything with the brush of one experience. And the bear and the man in the woods thing for the bear, I believe, comes a lot of times from experiences that women have had. Justifiably, they should be upset and absolutely be protecting themselves, taking care of themselves and wanting to be safe. I absolutely get that. At the same time, they paint any future prospect with the same experience. And that, unfortunately, is where it's going to, frankly, deny them the possibility of what they really want anyway, which is unfortunate. At the same time, it also makes men out to be something they're not largely themselves.
Oh, yeah, Barry, so eloquent. So what happens, I think, for us is we do have a bad experience, and we have another bad experience, and we have another bad experience. And what's really interesting, it certainly was for me in my early years of dating between my marriages, was they were all the same. Central casting sent people looking different, but they all had these traits. They all acted the same. And it took a while for me to finally say, I wonder if it has to do with me, because they were perfectly content with the traits that they had. They just weren't for me. But I was very busy saying next, 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 until I said, gosh, I know for a fact there's all sorts of other men out there. I mean, I was doing parties that I planned parties. I would see all sorts of kinds of men there. I had clients that were all sorts of kinds of men at corporate play, or the husbands of the wife I was doing the party for. Lots of different kinds of men that didn't have these traits that kept showing across the table from me. So then I was like, oh, maybe it has something to do with me. So yes, it has a lot to do with our attitude. The other analogy is my late husband was in the car business, and he said the least common color car that was manufactured because people didn't buy them was blue. So I give my assignment to people in between our appointments sometimes, but just notice how many blue cars there are. They're amazed when they're looking. So when you're looking, when you believe, which means you're looking, that all men are shits, you're going to see a lot of shitty men. A lot of shitty men, because there are some shitty men, and then there's men having behavior that seems shitty to us. When I've learned with good guys, there's often a really good reason they're doing this thing that looks really wrong to me. And so you'll find lots of evidence if that's really your goal. And women say, well, that's not my goal. I'm looking for a good guy. So tell me what a good guy is. Tell me the good guys that you've met. Tell me the traits they would have. Do you know anybody that's married to one? Do you have any friends that have been dating some? And they're sometimes at a loss because they've been so concentrating on the negative.
I want to talk more about that myself, got some experience from my experience I want to share, but we're at the break point, so we'll take a break now. And when we come back, I will share some thoughts on my perspective on the same idea, because we've got lots to talk about. We're still unpacking.
Oh, yeah. Lots of unpacking.
Yep. Back.
And we're back. We're talking about the big brouhaha that was on TikTok a few months ago about the bear versus the man in the woods. We're busy unpacking this kind of interesting baggage, and that the high majority of women chose the bear instead of the man. So we're talking about other ways of looking at it. Go ahead, Barry.
Well, because you said it before the break about how you went out, or you had met 3 different men and had the same trait, and the choice point in there, which is, I'm going to say from my own experience, I went through the same experience with 3 different relationships with women, where I had the same experience with them. Again, look very differently, but the end up result was the same in each relationship. And for me, it was kind of like, it took me 3 experiences to go, hang on a second, it ain't them, it's me, because I'm the common denominator. And so on both sides of the fence, skin, from women dating men, men dating women, we carry different experiences in our history or our upbringing, which we've talked about before in other broadcasts, about how we get imprinted. And so maybe we had some bad experiences in our 20s or in our teens or last year where we got hurt or wounded in a way where we felt we couldn't do that again. But unfortunately, we look through the lens of that painful experience then rather than going with something different. And so what happens is we tend to see through that lens, and that anybody we meet fits that paradigm, whether or not they do, because we're looking through a certain lens. And so when we can take our vision back and say, okay, let me wipe the slate clean and look for what's really there versus what I think is there, and then you might discover a different experience. But the challenge is many people don't catch that piece. It's the awareness thing we talk about a lot, becoming aware of the fact, hang on a second, maybe it's not about them, it's about me, because I'm looking through that lens and seeing that result. If I change the lens, I'll get a different result.
Yeah, I know. It's so easy. Lovely line.
Yeah, so easy.
Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So if you really are honest with yourself, and for good reason, you're mad at a lot of men, it behooves you to figure out why. And what was your part? That's always a really hard part, because I definitely was a frog farmer. I mean, I had some really lovely men that I dated really early in my dating experience. And I'd been in a really hard marriage. So I just was looking at them definitely through that same lens. And when I look back, I owe them so many apologies, because they really were not doing anything wrong. When I really look back through these more educated lenses, I mean, I've certainly had people who were the wrong people for me, but those people could have been the right people for me for sure.
Yeah.
But I was way uneducated about this. So to have knowledge enough to say, is this person going to do something bad? Are they a bad person? When I hear what they say and then I see their actions, they don't match. So I know the context is in the woods, and I'm fine with you being concerned about both of them in the woods. But I'm very concerned about thinking that all men are out to hurt you, because that's really the bottom line. Because if I would never, in the first place, I would never be in the woods alone, because I kept thinking, how would I answer that question? And I would be terrified of a bear, but I wouldn't automatically be terrified of the guy. I just wouldn't, because of what I know. But I am so not naive to think I would trust him, like to come and be with me if I didn't ask him some questions, which is, we just need to get back to the dating thing, because everybody's going to go, well, how would you know in the woods? Okay, I'm leaving the woods for the moment. But it was the really reason we started talking about this.
Yes.
When you are getting to know somebody, both men and women, listening to what they say, testing out, does it match what they do? And then trusting this inner knowing. There was this huge rash of conversations on the Facebook date single sites lately about, they're really getting better at going, oh, I see the red flag now. I see in hindsight, which is great, because you're like, oh, I ignored this trait because they were so cute, or I didn't ask this question early enough before I got involved, or I really didn't want to believe that, or I never even knew there was somebody like that. I mean, somebody who meets a narcissist who had never had any experience is very blindsided. And now you know. And they're very transparent when you know. So now you know better. And now, as Maya Angelou said, you could do better. But always thinking men are going to hurt you, always being on red alert. I learned personally, the good ones will just walk by, because you won't notice them, or you'll try to turn them into bad guys, which is what the frog farming is. Right. They look at all that guard up and think, how would I ever get through that? I mean, there's just so much. She's so unavailable emotionally because she thinks men are terrible. And trust me, ladies, they can pick it up in your energy. Can't you, Barry? You can tell.
It's well, saying yes, but I want to say it certain ways. The thing is, when a woman is in that space of not trusting, I feel like she's throwing mud on me in a way. Not saying it's something that should do something wrong, but in terms of like, it feels like I'm sort of an innocent bystander being, thrown mud on, because it feels like my reputation or my beingness is being disdained and looked down upon when nothing's been shown. We haven't gone beyond a hello sort of thing. So definitely feel it, yes. And at the same time, because again, I've done this work for many years and we're working with so many clients, so many women, that I've heard this story so many times as well, is that understandably there's going to be a piece of the puzzle where a woman's going to feel unsafe because she had an experience with a man where she felt unsafe. And not in a good way, because there are other ways of talking about different time. But the thing is, as I said before, painting every man with the same brush for that one time he felt unsafe is, one, going to do any phase of the dating scene. Two, it's going to give men the wrong impression about you. And three, it's going to keep you lonely, because you won't be able to find a man that's safe, because no man is safe according to your mindset, because you carry that belief forever. And so we're talking about dating and relationships as being one of the best parts of being alive in some ways. So to negate the opportunity to even have that because of one or two experiences that happened years ago. And yes, I know sometimes happened along the way where, you're doing great with somebody and somebody, 10, 20 year relationship where the man suddenly turns on you, or the woman turns on the man even at times. There are things that happen in behavior because people do strange things, but not all people do the same strange things.
Yeah. Because we think if we just keep everybody at bay, we won't get hurt. And yet we keep saying, but I really want a relationship. I have all this love, and my friends tell me I'm the nicest person. And why do I only meet creepy people? Or why don't I meet nice people? Why don't I meet men that want to get to know me? Because you think none of them do. If you really think deep down inside, you can give me all the malarkey that's not who you are. Okay. And when the same thing keeps showing up, that's what I had to finally look at. It really was a core belief of mine.
Yeah.
That all men could make as much money as they wanted and they'd have no money to show for it. I was very good at dating men like that, because that had been my experience with my father and my ex-husband. So I expected it, and boy, I got it in spades.
It's amazing how that happens.
It was remarkable. It was remarkable. So here's my controversial thing that I've never said on the podcast. I've said it aloud to people all the time. It feels very important about this.
Okay.
So I lived through the feminist movement. And I truly, this is the hardest part, because you go, there were good things. I'm going to say from the beginning, there were good things. I'm not disparaging it. I'm not saying it wasn't good that we didn't do it. Don't give me shit about that. I'm saying it out loud. There were lots of good things. And there were some things that worked really against women and men. Yes. And so what I talk about in this very controversial way is, because the pendulum was over here, we believed there was evidence, we were oppressed, we didn't have credit cards, we couldn't vote, but that was then. That was then, ladies. That is not 2024. I keep saying I'm tired of the arguments about where it was, because I'd love for you to turn around and go, look who got it. Women got us here. Women got us the vote. Women got us credit cards. Women. Men had to come along, but very strong, wonderful women did that for us. So say thank you and stop being ungrateful that we're where we are today and thinking everything's still shitty, because it's not. So what we did, because our pendulum was over here oppressed, we said, oh, okay, we're going to have all this freedom. We're going to burn our bras, and we don't need men for anything. We're going to do everything all the time, all by ourselves. We want you to sit over there occasionally. And I know I didn't do that way, but what I did to men, I thought there was nothing wrong with it. I felt very justified. I felt very right, with big font right. So I'm saying this, we all did this. Go sit over there. I'll let you know if I need something, because it's probably not going to be much. And I need you to occasionally cry about your feelings with me and go to the movies with me and watch chick flicks. That's about it. So you lovely men, the good men, not the bad ones, they could have given a shit about that, but the good guys that really wanted to be in a relationship with us, their priority is, I want her to think I'm a good guy. I want her to appreciate me. So if that's what she needs, I am going to go completely against my male nature, and I'm going to go sit over there, and I'm going to figure out how to cry about my feelings, and I'm going to figure out how to sit through chick flicks, because this is going to make her like me. This is going to make her appreciate me. This is going to make her think I'm a good guy. Well, that didn't happen, because all us women who need providing and protecting in our DNA, whether we admit it or not, went, well, yeah, not him, because he can't do that. So we went to lots of bad guys. Lots of bad guys. We dated, that was our period of dating all these bad guys, which we got our hearts broken. We got lots of venereal diseases. It was not very helpful for either side.
But it was sexy. It was fun. Along
We
the
had
way.
lots of sex. We did have lots of sex with lots of bad guys, and few good guys could like get in. If they were like in a group with bad guys, then they got to take advantage of our being loose, as my grandmother would have called us all, loose. So then we women are wearing ourselves out, because we're doing everything all the time, all by ourselves, and not asking for help. And the guys are feeling kind of wimpy, because they don't have a purpose. They don't have anything to provide. They spend a lot of more time at work. They started having affairs. And I'm not saying anybody is justified for any of this, but this was the facts. I look back and watched it happen, kind of going, not enough information to figure it out then, but kept going, So now we're like, And even Gloria Steinem, when she finally got married, said, oh, I get it. We do need men. It's not, we need men like a fish needs a bicycle. We need them. She wrote the most beautiful articles about loving being married, loving being in partnership, loving being with a connected, good, so I learned great sex happens when you're madly in love. But that didn't get as much play. It just didn't get as much play. So now, and what also happened, the worst thing, I think this is the worst thing, is because the guys are over here waiting for orders, and the bad guys just took over.
Yep.
And not the only reason, all the rapes of the young girls and the horribleness that happened. Horrible. It was all horrible. I'm not justifying any of it, but I'm saying, I know the guys in my life, if I introduce them to a guy in about 10 seconds, they can just tell. We can tell if there's a good woman or not in about 10 seconds. We can tell you like that. And they would go, oh, not a good guy. Because we like being friends with them. So we go, what do you think? And they go, oh, not a good guy. And we like, but he's cute and the sex is great. And he bought me a car. And they're like, I don't understand. Here I am standing there being this nice guy, and she doesn't want to be with me. She wants to be with this guy that treats her shitty because he bought her a car. Mm-hmm. And so they got more powerful. And we don't have the external, we have internal balls, but we do not have the external balls to stand up to them. So now I'm going to get in even more trouble because I bring up the Frozen movie, which I loved. It was beautiful, cinematography, great story till the end. So Elsa and Anna come back to the castle with Sven, the big log guy, and the prince, who everybody thought was good, but it turns out he's a bad guy.
Yep.
And they all figure that out. And Sven is going to go punch him out in response, not saving, but sticking up for his beautiful Elsa or Anna. And she goes, no, I can do it. And she goes over and she smacks him, which does hardly anything. And I'm thinking, hun, step back, get permission. He will punch him. He'll be over a week. But allow him to do this. And I thought this is such a terrible message for little girls. Isn't that terrible? It's such a soapbox about that movie. But do you see, please, people see, this is what got us where we are now. And this is how to Barry and I are going to teach you how to fix it.
Wow, I don't follow that up. I understand your feeling about that movie, although at the same time, I mean, for me, I flash back on Princess Bride. Is the movie for me that about the prince and everything. Anyway, but the thing is that there are definitely, sidebar for a second, men in power and authority who don't have people's interests at heart, whether it's men or women, to be honest. So you've got to be careful about that. But the second piece about it also is, I remember the women's liberation movement back in England and the feminist movement that happened. And yes, it did a lot of good, but a little bit not so good in it as well. And the challenge was, I was one of the nice guys that stood on the corner, or stood on the side and waited. So I know what it felt like to be sitting there watching the other guys getting all the goals, because that's what it felt like. And I also knew that I couldn't cross into that territory and become a bad guy just to get the goals. That wasn't working for me. It's not the way I'm wired.
Yep.
And so this journey we've been on for the last 60, 70 years now, I mean, 60s when it started, has been something that, well, I don't think we're finished with yet by any means. And women have had, unfortunately, maybe not the most illuminated experience to go through this journey. They've just learned a new thing the hard way, and they learn another thing the hard way, and they learn another thing the hard way. And so the understanding of how the dance between masculine and feminine, the connection between male and female, the ability to know each other better before you suffer the mistake of choosing badly, is much more available now, both in books and in teachings and what we talk about in our podcast as well. There's opportunities to learn how to be better at, one, choosing what you want, two, trusting your choice, and three, enjoying the experience as well as saying no when you need to say no. But it doesn't. Unfortunately, a lot of the women who've been, and I want to go back to this original topic about the bear in the woods, TikTok and all the posts about it. A lot of the women, unfortunately, who commented on these things may not have done their own work to see from a higher position. Not saying right or wrong, just saying it's what my experience has been. So unfortunately, they're seeing through the same lens that is what got them in trouble in the first place. They weren't learning from or seeing from a different perspective. And that, to me, is unfortunate, because there's no growth there. There's no learning. There's no opportunity to change. And so they're going to keep missing out.
Missing out is the right word, Barry. Missing out on, if you would like, the most amazing connected companionship, partnership, love, heart connected, body, mind, soul connected, when you assume they're okay until they prove you different. If your instinct immediately says run, please run.
Oh, yeah.
If your instinct immediately says call for help, please do all of that. And if you like, oh, still medium, it's still neutral, keep asking, keep learning, without assuming because they have a Y chromosome, they're probably bad, and you need to, it's like you're guilty until you prove it innocent. Not how our court system works, but it is often how women work, for sure.
Yeah. You're guilty before we even get charged.
It's so hard. So the pendulum swung over here to being oppressed, and the pendulum swung over here where sex, love, and rock and roll and freedom. Generally, we do best as human beings with somewhere, not necessarily the middle, but somewhere in the middle of, wow, I see why I'm attracted to excitement. I'm going to look for a good guy that's exciting. I'm going to look for a good guy that sees my heart. I'm going to look for a good guy who has the same values and morals as me, and go through a few. And that when somebody that's a bad guy shows up, say no thank you or ask a good guy that's your friend, what do you think? Because he will tell you, and you need to believe him. You so need to believe him. Because I'm sure you help your clients with that when they talk about who's in their life. You can spot them without even meeting them when you hear the kinds of things they're doing. Yeah, good guy, give him another chance. No, I think
Absolutely.
you need to stop.
Yeah.
It's one of the benefits that women get when they coach with you, Barry, because you know like that. Guys, you have radar for that.
Well, thank you. But it's also about the fact is because I'm not so invested in that connection that I can see from a higher perspective, so I can see more clearly. Same as you can too. It's like that's the gift of having, if you're a client, having us in your corner, is that we will see things more from a more neutral place and a more clear place that maybe you don't see things, which is what we're about when we're working with you. So, absolutely, it's. I mean, it's like radar. It's like it's not that hard to see when you're not standing in the middle of it. And that altitude and the attitude is better, see things differently is what works.
We have education and not invested. It's so helpful. We're invested in helping you grow and learn, but we're not invested in the relationship like you are.
Right.
We're such a helpful third party. We give you perspective that you cannot see on your own. It took me 4 years of really working through that to get there. Barry and I want you to get there way faster than that. So that's why we give you the perspective about, have you looked at it this way? What do you think? I mean, Allison's now been teaching almost 30 years and says she continues to learn more about men and women. I mean, how fun is that? So people go, well, I think I know everything. Well, here's somebody that she spent half of her life and she admits she doesn't know everything. And Barry and I admit we don't know everything, but I bet we know more than you. I'm just going to make all sorts of enemies this time, right?
Yeah, you're not pushing the button.
Nice, Christine.
So bringing it back to the topic and in another way.
You're so good at that.
I do what I can.
You like going off on all these.
So simply put, it's easy to join the bandwagon when people start making something that's salacious and exciting and there's drama involved, and you can feel like you want to be, it's clear to you there's going to be the right side and the wrong side of the conversation to be on. The challenge that sometimes happens, or the opportunity that happens sometimes it's harder to do it, but it's worth doing. It's to step back and look at both sides and then decide which is the one for you, because sometimes being on the minority side of the conversation is actually a better place to be when you understand what is true for you. But you got to know for yourself what lines up. And in this conversation, yes, when I first saw the post about it, my immediate thing was like, why would she choose a bear? That was in my head straight away. Because then it's like, so the second thought was, oh, because the men she's been around haven't been good men. So this conversation has been really expanding on that thought and bringing things down to a more nuts and bolts fashion, because frankly, we tend to make choices that align to our initial belief systems, initial programming. And if it's not the way you want it, then you want to change that to something different. So you want to have a different set of, research methodologies and tools to look through. So you look through the right lens. And that's the work we do.
And all the men were so confused why she would choose the bear. Because you would always choose the woman. I don't care who she is. She could be the shittiest person in the world. You would choose her over a bear. Right.
Absolutely.
I just had to finish with that because nobody ever said that, but I'm going to say it because it's one of those lovely, I can put my tongue planted in my cheek, because it's one of those lovely differences about us. It's lovely. I love all the differences about us. It's our favorite thing to teach. So if you're not too I'd be so happy to, or you could have a free conversation to tell me how wrong I am. I'm okay with that. I love growing. I love hearing other people's opinions. You can go on my website and schedule a conversation with me to tell me that you liked some of it, hated some of it. I think it'd be a really fun conversation to hear feedback about this. So my website is www.theperfectcatch.com. If you scroll down, it'll say what's holding you back from love questionnaire. Click on that and it'll take you to my online calendar, and you can schedule a whole hour to yell at me if you want. I've had it happen more than once, not too often, but now and then. You can also go to the bottom of that homepage and all my social media links there. You can look at Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and Pinterest and Twitter and YouTube. Can't forget YouTube. Then you can also send me a personal email and tell me what you thought about my talk today. It's at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm so curious to hear what people's thoughts are about this.
Mm-hmm.
And tell people how to call you and not yell at you.
Well, they might. You can find me on my website, which is barryselby.com. On the homepage is also a link to get on my calendar and a little conversation. And there's also a form you fill out, which gives you a chance to really share what's going on for you. We have a conversation that basically is a chance to see where you are and where I come from, and if we line up and it works. That's easy to do. The new site still pending. It's taken months to get to this point, but it's going to be coming soon. I know that.
Worth the wait.
But basically, but if you do want to send me an email and tell me all the stories about why bears are better than men, feel free. As long as you're willing to let me respond to that, you can send an email to me at barry@barryselby.com. Also, my social media is my name, which is Barry Selby, on all platforms except for Instagram, which I'll get to. But on YouTube, on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, it's all Barry Selby. And then on Instagram and Threads, it's the real Barry Selby. So that account got changed. And also, by the way, if you want to really discover what may be in the way of you having the perfect relationship, I created a quiz called the Relationship Readiness Assessment. If you go to barryselby.com/quiz, you take this assessment for yourself, and it gives you a bunch of questions that you can really consider, honestly answer. And at the end, you'll get a sense, and basically you'll get some percentages, which sounds really flat, but the reality is you'll see, oh, I'm better in this area than that area, which is really helpful. And also there's lots of opportunities in that quiz and in the results you get to reach out to me for a discovery session as well. So take the quiz and find out.
I know. You never know. We don't know what we don't know, right? We can't do anything about it if we don't know.
Yep.
And we're always here every week live. If you want to comment when you're watching, that it's always on Thursday at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern and all the times in between. And if you sign up for our email list, you'll get repeats of this in your email box, but you can also go back and look. You can watch us on Roku and on YouTube.
Absolutely. And by the way, the live stream goes out to YouTube and Facebook as we do it. So 1 o'clock Pacific, you can watch us live on Facebook or on YouTube. So you can check us out there as well, definitely. And we do the podcast goes out as an audio, usually within the first month or so after the episodes are recorded, onto Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Amazon Podcasts as well. So you can take us with you when you go out in the world and you haven't got a chance to watch it, you want to listen to it. So either way works.
And when you're watching or listening, if you would like and subscribe and then share it with your friends who are also having, maybe that would spur a discussion with you about the bear and the man in the woods. Please share that with your friends too.
Absolutely. So thank you for at least listening this far into the talking. If you want to reach out to us, you know how to find us now.
Yeah, we appreciate you listening to a little bit, we hope, broader view about that subject.
Indeed. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.